From 85 to 90, lows tomorrow night in the upper 50s. And then for Friday, again, very warm, highs in the low 90s. Right now it's 86 at 710 KURV. News at the top and bottom of the hour and when it breaks, and on demand at KURV.com. I'm Tim Sullivan, 710 KURV.
Corporate strategist for the Bird Ogden and Fiesta dealerships, Jorge Gutierrez.
At the Bird Ogden Auto Group, we're actually always hiring, even through the pandemic. Obviously, I think it was March of last year. Nobody knew what was going on at that point. I don't think we hired too many people in March, but other than that, we ramped up our hiring practices and we're always hiring. This is a company that our dealer principal, our owner cares about our employees so very much. And more than our employees, we consider everybody family. And we really abide by family values in our group. I believe the last statistic I saw is 1 out of every 3 employees has been with us for over 10 years. Once you're here, you pretty much stay. I myself have been with the company for 8 years. I can attest to that.
Ballpark figure, how big is the family?
We have about 1,082 employees. And out of that, the big percentage of our salespeople, we have about 250 salespeople. We have about 135 service technicians and 53 service advisors, who are the people that help customers when they have any issues with their vehicles. Okay, obviously, there's other positions within the stores and at the corporate level, but all in all, we have over 1,000 employees. We were considered an essential business, so therefore we never actually closed our doors to the public, but our hiring practices have been ongoing throughout the pandemic. There is always opportunities for this. At any given time, we have about 20 to 30 positions open for salespeople. And then within their service for technicians, there's always opportunities. We have a lot of partnerships with institutions such as Universal Technical Institute and the South Texas College, where we hire most of our technicians. We're a company that hires and promotes from within. We hire students from those institutions and those schools and prep them, and we train them to be able to be our next technicians. We're always hiring. We're looking for talent. Sometimes even if we don't have the position, we will hire the talent. We'll find a home for people that are talented and hardworking and share our values of community support and also family values.
We'd like to thank our friends at Bird Ogden and Fiesta dealerships for today's KURV News Special.
From the KURV Broadcast Center in McAllen, Texas, in the mighty Rio Grande Valley, this is a KURV Community Special. It's showtime! RGV, Economic Recovery. This KURV Special is powered by Bird Ogden and Fiesta dealerships of the Rio Grande Valley. Let's do this! Here's Sergio Sanchez.
Trying to open up the Rio Grande Valley and Texas economy. How are you, friends? Thanks for joining us on News Talk 710 KURV. We invite your participation as well. Got some good questions. You need to get those by producer Joe Salinas, 800-580-TALK. You can also join us at Facebook Live, News Talk 710 KURV Facebook Live. Our producer, Zach Cantu, he's taking a look at those questions, and he'll lob those over to us in our panel to discuss in this 1 hour of programming, KURV News Special, RGV Economic Recovery. I'm Sergio Sanchez, joined by Davis Rankin and Roxanne Flores on air, along with Dr. Joseph Fleischman, Associate Vice President of Instruction, Workforce Training, Continuing Education Office at Texas Southmost College. Man, that's a big title. He uses 2 business cards when he introduces himself. Sergio Contreras, President, CEO of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. Dan Uribe, we welcome him back as well. He's with Workforce Solutions, serving Hidalgo, Willacy, and Stark County. And Dr. Ivan Melendez with the Hidalgo County Health Authority. Let's go to Davis Rankin. He's got the first question. Go ahead, David.
Thank you very much. And for Dr. Melendez, let's start off with, it's been, 2 weeks, close to a month, we sort of opened up. What's the status of things now? How do we stand? Are we waxing? Are we surging or unsurging or what?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that despite remember opening up, or it was the mandate was there will no longer be a mandate. The recommendation was, of course, to continue with facial coverings, and the recommendations, it would no longer be mandated, that there couldn't be any punishment behind it. Fortunately, what we've seen is that those people that were going to wear masks continue to wear masks. Those businesses that were going to enforce are continuing to do so for the most part. So I'm very happy to say that our numbers continue to trend down. We're roughly around 100 people, a little bit higher. Today was 119 of people in the hospital. which is slightly less than where we were right before the mandates. Let's remember that we vaccinated already 209,000 people. And so the impact of the not wearing the masks, thank God, has not resulted in numbers increasing. They've stayed in the low 100s. So could they have been lower if we were wearing more masks? Probably so. But are they going up? No. Are they statistically lower? Yeah, I'd say they continue to be down about another 8% in the amount of cases that we have.
Okay.
Driving Melendez, he's the Hidalgo County Health Authority. Go ahead, Davey. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm trying to think of a way that's not vulgar to phrase this, but are we seeing fewer deaths because all the people who were going to die have died? And the people now are the ones who have paid attention or are stronger. They have some congenital force that keeps them from dying.
Actually, that's a very, very good observation. And you're right. It's kind of easily perceived as an insensitive comment. But the reality of it is that is correct. When we were seeing people back in the early in July and August, we were definitely seeing people perish that were the sickest of the sick. So we had almost 2,000 people died during that time compared to 700 more since then. And so absolutely, anecdotally, as a clinician, we were seeing people coming in a lot sicker, a lot older, a lot more comorbidity. So there was a population, specifically in the nursing homes, that were quite fragile. Now what we're seeing is less people dying. Let's remember that back in July, we actually had a day where we had 60 people die in one day.
Wow.
And our usual numbers were in the 40s or high 40s or low 50s. Yesterday, we had 4 people die, actual deaths. What I'm seeing is people are coming in earlier. The bed capacity is no longer discouraging for people in the community. Those that are coming in are significantly younger. And so we're absolutely seeing a different type of patient than what we were seeing back a couple of months ago. So yes, I think that the decreased number of deaths, which is now instead of being above 40, and let's remember before the vaccine program started, there were around 10 to 12. And now we're seeing they're less than 5 for the last couple of days and so. And I think a lot of it has to do that the people who are coming in, as you very astutely noted, are not as fragile as the ones before.
Go ahead, Roxanne. I know you have a follow-up.
Yeah, I have a follow-up for you, Dr. Melendez, and thank you all for joining us today. Why does it seem that we are faring well compared to Europe?
Why does it seem that we're doing better than Europe?
Yes.
Yes.
My first response would be that the virus that left China is not the virus that's in Europe anymore. We know that the vast majority of the virus that's affecting, for example, the 117 that's affecting the people in Britain is a predominant strain now. We also know that the virus that's running amok in Europe is not the same virus that got out of China. We here in the Rio Grande Valley are absolutely seeing the British, suspect the South African, and other strains, but the vast majority of our viruses still remain that original virus that came out of China. Now, people will say, well, the vaccines have been proven to be effective for all the variants that we've seen so far. But if we really look at the numbers, I'll give you an example. There's a study that came out at the beginning of the week that was looking at the Moderna vaccine. And what it showed was that the Moderna vaccine was 94 to 95% effective in the original virus that we got the genome for back in February. And the British variant, it was only 72% effective. Now, of course, 72 is still an outstanding number. Anything above 50 we can live with, but it's still 20% less than the original response. So I would say that those people in Europe are seeing second, third, and fourth waves from perhaps a little genetically modified virus. I think our numbers are been better for that. And secondly, our population density is much less. For all of us who have been lucky enough to travel to Europe, we know that for vast majority, especially the larger cities, there's 500 to 1,000 people per kilometer. And here in Hidalgo County in the Rio Grande Valley, we have 35 miles length and a couple miles wide. And so our population density is such less that it's slower for our numbers to go back up in case we get second or third or fourth waves.
And if I could just make this observation, Dr. Ivan, your colleague, Dr. James Castillo, the Health Authority, Cameron County, I texted him something very similar this morning, and he responded, I just found the text, but he responded with vaccination rates fully vaccinated in the U.S., we're almost at 14%. Italy, slightly over 4%. Spain, 4.5%. France, just under 4%, 3.7%. The UK, 3.6%. It's for some reason vaccination schedules are sucking wind in
How can
Europe.
that be?
We're doing much better over here. Real quick, Dr. Evan, we need to go to other folks. Go ahead, Dr. Evan.
I would just respond quickly that in the Valley, we're even better. I mean, think about it, 209,000 of first vaccines, add another 30% of that, another 60,000. So you're looking at about 280,000 people have received one or two vaccines. And so if you look at that, our adult population that can get it, we're probably looking at it over 20%, 25%, more or less vaccination rate. And absolutely, vaccines are a predominant factor. Now, nevertheless, let's keep in mind that the vaccines, which is what Roxana and I were talking about, are addressing primarily that initial virus, and we've been fortunate that the strains are still sensitive to it. So I think Dr. Castillo, as usual, is right on mark.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. Go ahead, Roxanne. I know you want to keep going.
I know. I want to welcome Dan Uribe with Workforce Solutions. Dan, thank you for joining us today. Now, how bad has unemployment, how was it at the deepest trench of COVID-19, and where are we now when it comes to unemployment?
Thank you, Roxanne, for having me. Well, in terms of the unemployment rate, we peaked in around the month of April last year. The highest unemployment rate that we had was 21.2%, and that was for the city of San Juan here in the region, which of course that was incredibly high. Right now, most of the unemployment rates that we have are still double of what they used to be pre-COVID, but they're of course improving. We have that for the same city of San Juan. Right now, they are at a 14.1%. Mm-hmm. We have, for example, that McAllen is at, let me look at that right here, at 8.1%, Edinburgh 8.2%. So some of these bigger cities are now in single digits versus some other areas that are more rural that are still in double digits. But overall, there is some improvement, not as much as we would have liked to see by now, but they are trending down. So that's a good thing. We're just hoping that with the new stimulus and as the economy continues to recover and people get back to work, these unemployment rates continue to improve.
Yeah, McAllen, Edinburgh, it always seemed that they were the leaders in unemployment, Dan. McAllen, right. COVID was just shy of 5%, right? That was a continuous trend, like 4 point something, right, for the longest time in McAllen.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Edinburgh the same. So now that we're opening up, and with the bonus in unemployment that is provided through the so-called stimulus pack, how long do you think before we segue the folks who are unemployed back to maybe closer to full employment, which over McAllen was just shy of 5%?
Right. Well, we probably won't see those unemployment rates until probably the end of the year, or maybe a year from now. We have to keep in mind that the new recovery plan was just implemented, and that covers an extension of benefits for those individuals that are unemployed, and that is an amount of about $300 per week. Yeah. That's beginning on March 14 week all the way through the week ending September 4th of 2021.
My goodness.
And that, I'm sorry?
No, we got a way to go. It was going to be all the way to September.
Yes. So pretty much these upcoming months, it's still, part of trying to get back on track. And for these benefits, that includes those individuals that fall under the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, those individuals that fall on Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and those that fall also on Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. Now, the Texas Workforce Commission has made it clear that these individuals, they don't need to call them or file again for the benefits. The Texas Workforce Commission will be reaching out to them according to the eligibility process that they have in place, and just continue providing those benefits to these individuals.
All right, that's Dan Uribe. He is with Workforce Solutions Office, Hidalgo County, Willacy Historic County. Any questions, we invite you to put those on 710 KURV Facebook Live. Before we go pay some bills, I want to say thank you to our supporter, Bert Ogden and Fiesta Dealerships. Let me introduce Dr. Joseph H. Fleischman. He's with Texas Southmost College. And I invite you to join us at KURV.com. We had recently a conversation with Dr. Fleischman, the initial conversation with him, and he was fleshing out a fascinating setup that we have at Texas Southmost College. 1 million square feet of training space for all types of careers. But I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, Dr. Joe, but we got some bad news this week from the Port of Brownsville that Inova LNG ain't coming anytime soon. And we were kind of hoping and banking that they would be one of the job creators at the Port of Brownsville. I'd like to think that we're still in the running for the other 2 LNG candidates that are considering the Port of Brownsville. Either way, you're chomping at the bit, and you're already training people for pipe fitting and welding and all sorts of jobs there at Texas Southmost College, aren't you?
We are. And as a matter of fact, it may sound odd, but we recently, just a week ago or so, had a company, Swickerts, out of Mankato, Minnesota, actually came down to the Valley. They have a history of hiring residents from Brownsville to do roofing up in Minnesota. They've been hiring Rio Grande Valley residents for 20 years. They find them to be some of the very best workers in the country. So they actually, the CEO of that company is partnering with Texas Southmost College, and we're training the first 40 employees this year. We have a class of 20 getting ready to start April 5th, fully scholarshiped in. Every single individual who is in that program will be employed by Swickerts. Starting salary $18,000 to $20,000. 3 years later, after they go to Swickerts, they will complete a Department of Labor apprentice program. They will be journeyman roofers. Their average salary will be $30 to $35 an hour. So here's a company that came down and said, we will recruit every year. We'll recruit a minimum of 40 individuals from the Valley. You train them, we'll guarantee to hire them. We'll pay for them to come up here. We'll house them for the first 30 days. We'll co-sign their lease when it's time for them to get their own apartment. We will pay them a per diem. We like the workers that come. We like the culture, the work ethic from the Valley. So here we have a company from Minnesota that came all the way down to Brownsville to do business with us. And that's just one of many. So imagine that.
Yeah,
100% employment. These students will actually be hired by the company before they even start training.
Wow. I see money signs in Roxanne Flores' eyes. No, Roxanne, you can't do roofing. You got to stay on the ground. It's better for the baby. Let me take a quick break. Appreciate you tuning in. News Talk 710 KURV. You just heard Dr. Joseph Fleischman. He's with Texas Southmost College. We're talking about worker training, different instruction that's offered at Texas Southmost College. Sergio Contreras, my tocayo, he'll be joining us soon from the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. I know he's amassed some interesting economic numbers, commercial construction, bank deposits, other numbers. Dan Uribe from Workforce Solutions, and Dr. Ivan Melendez, Hidalgo County Health Authority. Thank you so much for joining us on News Talk 710 KURV. Any questions for this news special on KURV? RGV Economic Recovery. Join us at Facebook Live, 710 KURV. Corporate strategist for the Bert Ogden and Fiesta dealerships, Jorge Gutierrez.
We're actually relocating our current Cadillac store from the Mission location to our Edinburgh. It's going to be a brand new state-of-the-art building. We're very excited about it. It's actually the first one that's going to be built with this new facility image in the state of Texas, and for it to be in the Rio Grande Valley. Every couple of years, manufacturers come up with new facility image. The facility image for Cadillac changed. Part of it was on hold with COVID, but we started construction prior to, or actually started conversations about the construction prior to the COVID. We're able to push that, and our facility, again, is going to be the first one in the state that's going to have this new image, and it's going to have a strong focus on electrification. I think electric vehicles is going to be the way of the future, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve in that sense. But we're also in the midst of construction a new pre-owned building in Harlingen. That's also going to be a state-of-the-art facility. It's a new concept we're launching for our pre-owned vehicles. It's really going to be something. So I invite you to go over once it's done so we can see that nice building down in Arlington. You know, COVID helped us in a certain extent, and I know that sounds weird, but it helped us kind of take a step back and analyze early on at the start of the pandemic. Many of the manufacturers were proactively instituting very strong incentive programs for vehicles. So basically a lot of discounts and a lot of programs with incentivized rates and interest rates were low. And that really created a demand for our vehicles. With the COVID pandemic, it really helped us identify areas where we could make our customers feel more comfortable coming to the dealerships. We instituted a variety of measures that we still have in place today. Masks were required very early on. We hire a whole crew of additional janitorial staff to help us clean everything and make sure that when a customer walked in, they were going to be safe. And that was very important for us. We probably did more than what was required of us, but at the same time, it was to keep our customers safe and to keep our employees safe.
Lease, purchase any vehicle online, and they deliver to you. It all starts at birdogden.com. Time is 4:27. This is News Talk 710 KURV, RGV Economic Recovery News Special. I'm Sergio Sanchez, along with Roxanne Flores and Davis Rankin. Our guest, Dr. Joseph Fleischman from Texas Southmost College, Sergio Contreras with the Rio Grande Valley Partnership, Dan Uribe, Workforce Solutions, and Dr. Ivan Melendez, Hidalgo County Health Authority. Go ahead, David.
Sergio Contreras is president and CEO of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership, which in days of old was called the Valley Chamber of Commerce. Here's a question about banks and deposits. What's the trend with bank deposits? Do you expect a flood of cash because of the government help? And is a lot of bank deposits good or bad?
Well, good afternoon, Tocayo, Davis, the group, KRV. Thank you for having us.
Sure.
Roxanne, thank you. I'll give you a glimpse of where we stand when it comes to bank deposits on the four-county region from 2019 to 2020. And then I'll expand on some other data that we've talked about. So just to kind of give you a sense of and think of it about like a stock, right? So in Hidalgo in 2019, we had about 9.95 billion in deposits. We are currently, end of 2020, at 11.78 billion. Cameron County, 4.23 billion. Now in 2020, we are at 5.09 billion. For Willacy County, in 2019, there were 94 million in bank deposits, where 2020, we're at 117 million. And then in Starr County, it was 471 million in 2019, with 533 million in bank deposits. Again, think of it as stock, and that's where it's at now. So we've seen, and you know, in talking to our members in the financial sector, they fared well during the COVID year, in the sense of 2020, right? We're still in it. However, when we got hit pretty hard, some of their components in regards to PPP, in regards to lending out funding was flowing through, and right now a lot of folks are sitting on cash. You know, a lot of us haven't traveled investment, so you know, in talking to our chairman right now, Larry from Things Capital, he's telling me that the investors he's seen come across his desk and said, "Hey, if you got money now, and if you want to invest now, because pricing is going up when it comes to either residential or commercial, and land is not really available as it was pre-pandemic years. In fact, we have residential developers who are having trouble identifying property, and if they do, it's at a higher price." Regarding what Tocayo mentioned earlier, the LNG that is not going to come to fruition. You know, we're fortunate the Port of Brownsville is a well-known port, and it's in good hands with Mr. Eddie Campirano and board. We heard from the other LNG company, Next Decade, and they continue to diversify their portfolio. So they're still growing strong. And so it's interesting to hear of that, because, you know, COVID didn't discriminate against any industry. And obviously LNG is there. We see it there with Innova. However, we're fortunate that the Port of Brownsville continues to invest in their infrastructure. And in talking to our ports of entry, When it comes to commercial trade, numbers continue to increase because of the demand of supplies that is coming through Mexico. So that number continues to grow. And I'll dive briefly into residential component, just to kind of give you a sense of comparing the Upper Valley, which is the McAllen, Edinburgh, Mission MSA, and compare that to the Brownsville, Harlingen MSA. So in the Lower Valley, there were 2,978 homes sold. That's 21% increase from 2019. In the McAllen, Edinburgh area, 3,784 homes were sold. That's up about 10% from 2019. Of interest is the number of active listings. So for example, in the Lower Valley, there were about 987 active listings in 2020. That's 26% down from 2019. And then in the Upper Valley, there were about 1,353 active listings, down 28% from 2019. So existing homes were the active listings is you can see the numbers there as well. So it's interesting to see that also the pricing. I'll close with this. So the median price per square foot in the Upper Valley was at about $107, up 30% from 19. The median price in the Lower Valley was $105, up about 13%. And so we continue to see the trend on residential sales. And when it comes to commercial, well, warehousing space is of need, and we continue to see the expansion across many of our communities.
That's Sergio Contreras. He's the president of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. We're talking about RGV economic recovery. Lots to talk about. Hope to squeeze as much as we can before the end of the hour. Our guest, Dr. Joseph Fleischman from Texas Southmost College. As you heard, Sergio Contreras from the partnership. Dan Uribe, Workforce Solutions. We still need to talk about unemployment, getting back to work. And Dr. Ivan Melendez, and more questions for him coming up. He's with the Hidalgo County Health Authority. I'm Sergio Sanchez with Davis Rankin and Roxanne Flores. Thank you for joining us on News Talk 710 KURV. Again, the best way to get a question to us, send it over to Zach via News Talk 710 KURV or Facebook Live broadcast. Time is 4:34. Thanks for joining us on 710 KURV. Today's program made possible by Bert Ogden and Fiesta Dealerships.
Top and bottom of the hour news. This is News Talk 710 KURV.
4:34 on News Talk 710 KURV. Good afternoon. I'm Tim Sullivan. The 21-year-old man who allegedly shot 10 people to death at a Boulder, Colorado grocery store set to appear in court tomorrow. Ahmad Alissa is charged with 10 counts of murder. While police have yet to reveal a motive, family members say Alissa was antisocial, suffered from paranoia, was likely mentally ill. 2 U.S. military bases in Texas could be used to temporarily house unaccompanied migrant kids. The Department of Health and Human Services has requested assistance from the Department of Defense to use 2 bases, Fort Bliss in El Paso and Joint Base San Antonio Lackland. DoD spokesman John Kirby says the request is being evaluated. White House officials, along with members of Congress, visiting a migrant care facility in South Texas today, and this time, members of the press being allowed to film. The group is touring inside the facility in Carrizo Springs that's been housing hundreds of migrants in very close quarters. President Biden is asking Vice President Harris to lead efforts to deal with the surge of Central American migrants to the U.S. southern border. He made the announcement at the start of a high-level White House meeting on the issue today. Biden said the timeline shows the current surge started with the last administration, but he acknowledged it's his responsibility now as he opts to not turn away unaccompanied teenagers and children. The vice president's to-do list includes talks with Mexico and the Northern Triangle countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Americans believe cyber terrorism is the country's biggest security risk. A new Gallup poll finds more than 4 out of 5 respondents think cyber terrorism is a more dire threat than global terrorism or nuclear weapons development. Recent suspected Russian and Chinese breaches have caused that concern. And there was no notable partisan split among the respondents in that survey. Nevada has struck a $45 million settlement with global consulting firm McKinsey and Company for its role in advising opioid makers of how to sell more of the addictive prescription painkillers amid the national overdose crisis. Nevada struck its own deal after sitting out a multi-state settlement announced earlier this year. Orders to U.S. factories for big-ticket manufacturing goods fell a sharp 1.1% in February, with demand in a key sector that tracks business investment also dropping. The Commerce Department saying today orders for durable goods declined last month for the first time after 9 straight monthly gains, including a sizable increase in January. Wall Street today, the Dow closed down 3 points. NASDAQ ended down 265. S&P 500 dropped 21. Your 710 KURV exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Partly cloudy tonight, lows in the upper 60s, and it'll be partly to mostly sunny, very warm tomorrow. Highs from 85 to 90. Right now, 87 at 710 KURV. News at the top and bottom of the hour, and when it breaks, and on demand at KURV.com. I'm Tim Sullivan, 710 KURV.
Corporate strategist for the Bird Ogden and Fiesta dealerships, Jorge Gutierrez.
At the Bird Ogden Auto Group, we're actually always hiring, even through the pandemic. Obviously, I think it was March of last year. Nobody knew what was going on at that point. I don't think we hired too many people in March, but other than that, we ramped up our hiring practices and we're always hiring. This is a company that our dealer principal, our owner, cares about our employees so very much. And more than our employees, we consider everybody family. And we really abide by family values in our group. I believe the last statistic I saw is 1 out of every 3 employees has been with us for over 10 years. Once you're here, you pretty much stay. I myself have been with the company for 8 years. I can attest to that.
Ballpark figure, how big is the family?
We have about 1,082 employees. And out of that, the big percentage of our salespeople, we have about 250 salespeople. We have about 135 service technicians and 53 service advisors, who are the people that help customers when they have any issues with their vehicles. Okay, obviously, there's other positions within the stores and at the corporate level, but all in all, we have over 1,000 employees. We were considered an essential business, so therefore we never actually closed our doors to the public, but our hiring practices have been ongoing throughout the pandemic. There is always opportunities for us. At any given time, we have about 20 to 30 positions open for salespeople. And then within their service for technicians, there's always opportunities. We have a lot of partnerships with institutions such as Universal Technical Institute and the South Texas College, where we hire most of our technicians. We're a company that hires and promotes from within. We hire students from those institutions and those schools and prep them, and we train them to be able to be our next technicians. We're always hiring. We're looking for talent. Sometimes even if we don't have the position, we will hire the talent. We'll find a home for people that are talented and hardworking and share our values of community support and also family values.
We'd like to thank our friends at Bird Ogden and Fiesta dealerships for today's KURV News Special.
This is your home for Fox News Radio and the Valley's Morning News. Weekdays starting at 6. News Talk 710 KURV.
Got about 19 minutes left of the hour. RGV Economic Recovery News Special. I'm Sergio Sanchez with Roxanne Flores, Davis Rankin, and our panelists today from Texas Southmost College, Dr. Joseph Fleischman, from the Valley Partnership, my tocayo Sergio Contreras, Dan Uribe, Workforce Solutions, Dr. Ivan Melendez, Hidalgo County Health Authority. We have questions for all of you, so you stand by, friends. So let me go to Dan real quick. The federal bonus of $300 extra on top of the unemployment that is being received by folks who are unemployed because of COVID, or is there a way to gauge if this bonus is perhaps a hindrance, a stumbling block to us reaching full employment? Are you able to gauge that based on, let's say, openings, job openings that are going unfilled, Dan?
Right. That's actually a good point, Sergio. What we have noticed from the events that we have weekly or biweekly, as far as hiring events or small job fairs for either a group of employers or just one particular employer, we do notice that whenever there is these stimulus packages being rolled out, there is less job seekers enrolled in those events. Now, I wouldn't say that it's a direct relation there, but it certainly influenced the decision of those individuals that might be looking for a job. It is something that it's becoming a trend. We have noticed this is the second or third extension of the benefits. So definitely it does affect. Now, on the employer side, there are jobs out there. They are hiring.
Wow.
We know this because they reach out to us to help them, hire individuals. There are positions available in all industries. Now, even though it's not as it was pre-COVID situation, there are still jobs out there, and they are struggling to hire and fill these positions. So in fact, this week on Thursday, we have a hiring event for the healthcare industry. There are several hospitals and healthcare organizations that are hiring, and we'll be having that event on Thursday online. And for additional information on that particular event, I would recommend to your audience to visit our Facebook page, Workforce Solutions, or our website, wfsolutions.org. We have a calendar there with all the events that we have going on every week.
10-4.
Yes, just to answer your question, there is a relationship there between the stimulus packages, the number of job seekers signing up for these events, but there are jobs out there, and the employers are trying to hire for that.
Are you doing any in person anytime soon? When do you think you do the in-person job fairs again, Dan?
We are not doing in person yet. We are still waiting on guidance from the Texas Workforce Commission. Usually, all board areas will get on board to start doing in person or one-to-one meetings once the direction from the governor's office and the Texas Workforce Commission go that way. Then we'll start doing that. But we'll advertise that and let the community know.
All right. Back to you, Roxanne. Go ahead. I know you had a question for Dr. Ivan. Go ahead.
I know, but I'm watching Dr. Melendez, and he's currently in a conversation right now, so I don't know if we should ask him the question or not.
I'm multifactorial.
I know you're
I'm ready for you.
multitasking. All right, Dr. Ivan, this is for you. Could you please?
Spin the plates. It's
I know.
right now. Go ahead.
Could you please, Dr. Ivan, can you please review the therapeutics available to you now that you did not have a year ago this time, but help you treat and beat COVID early?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's a great question. You are so right. Like everyone else, your other speakers, we've learned a lot in a year. And specifically to your question, therapeutics, we've gone through a year of recommended treatments, and the criteria for recommendation has been anecdotal. I did this with my patients, and this happened. I think we heard so many people tout so many different treatments, whether it was ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine or azithromax or megavitamin dosages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But none of them were evidence-based because it was brand new. We didn't have an opportunity to do the double-blind studies that we usually do, where you don't know who's getting what, and you do it prospectively. The best studies are prospective. But now we've had a year, and now these prospective studies have come home to roost. And without a doubt, we have much better therapeutics to begin with. The most important lesson that we've learned in this year, and the reason why Hidalgo County has been infamous for having the highest mortality rate of 5% back in July, is because our level of health, our state of health, is so poor. Even other areas that share in the same demographics of ethnicity and poverty and access to healthcare, we did even worse. It wasn't enough that we were number one in morbid obesity, diabetes, hypertension, hemodialysis utilization, lowest in insurance, 40% lowest insurance and rates, accessibility to healthcare, and average 29 years of age. All those factors that you've heard me say over and over, it wasn't enough to explain why we were the worst of the worst. And I think after a year, what we've learned is because our state of health was worse than anybody else, our baseline state of health. Let me give you an example. Most diabetics know what a hemoglobin A1C is, and that is a 3-month review of how well you've been controlling your diabetes so that you don't cheat the day before you get your blood test and you come back with a good score. Hemoglobin A1C tells us what's been going on for the last 3 months. We want to be less than 6. So the higher the number, the worse. So let's say the people in Laredo, the hemoglobin A1C was 9. The hemoglobin in Hidalgo County was 12. My point being is that if you're going to run a marathon, the people that are going to do the best are those that are fit, that are in shape, and that are ready to run. Well, when it comes to protecting ourselves from calamity, we were not ready to run. So the first and foremost thing that I would recommend that we learned over a year, which seems intuitive and repetitive, but I cannot overemphasize it, is that we absolutely need to be in a better state of health. People right now need to understand that this is not the last pandemic that's going to happen in our lifetime. Just like this was not the last freeze that we had a couple of months ago, the world is changing. Our population is changing, our travel patterns are changing, our global community is becoming more global. My point being is for the next pandemic and even for this one, should mutations occur, the better state of health you are now in weight and cholesterol and diabetes and hypertension, much better. Let's look at studies that show people that die that had COVID with diabetes and people that die with COVID that did not have diabetes. Well, people who had diabetes were more likely to die, but not just diabetes, people who had uncontrolled diabetes. So if you had controlled diabetics, they had the equal mortality rate than people without diabetes. It was the uncontrolled diabetic and obese and hypertensive. So because you have an underlying condition doesn't mean that you're already at a disadvantage. What it means is you need to get it to a healthy state. Remember, I hate to say this, but because many of my colleagues are not going to be happy with me, but there are very few things in medicine that if you can't cut it off, you can't fix. Congestive heart failure, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, all we can do is control it. So the number one recommendation I would give is you have to control your underlying state of health so that when you're asked to run that 26.3 marathon, you're fit, you're in shape, you're good to go. Number two, we understand that you do not want to self-treat. You do not want to get on social media because someone says you need to take this medication or that medication, because none of them have panned out to make any statistical impact whatsoever. Once you're in the hospital, our tools that we now have that we did not have before, there are two that are absolutely unquestionably work. That is steroid use, intravenous steroid use when you're in the hospital. When you're outside the hospital, it's counterproductive. It makes you more immunosuppressed. It causes you to pass it on more. You get in trouble. But once you're hospitalized, universal acceptance that steroids were a dominant impact on people surviving. Number two, delayed ventilators. For years, all those diseases that lead to respiratory failure where you need a ventilator, like what? Asthma, COPD, emphysema, congestive heart failure. We knew that if we were early to intubate, we're allowing people to rest, their lungs to rest. We put you on a machine that would give you a couple of days to recuperate. And so when COVID came by, we thought it would be the same pattern. Let's intubate these folks early so they can rest and they don't get worse. Well, it's counterproductive. But we saw that people that got intubated early were more likely to die than people that we waited until the last possible moment where we couldn't avoid it anymore. So delayed in ventilation, early use of steroids in hospitalized patients are, without a doubt, 110% helpful. And what is questionable, but seems to be work, are what you already know. Antivirals like remdesivir, monoclonal antibody therapy, plasma therapy, and anticoagulants, stuff that keeps you from forming clots. So in the hospital, 6 tools: anticoagulants, delayed ventilation, steroids, antivirals, monoclonal antibodies, and outside the hospital, I can give you a zillion examples, but the concept is obtain your most highest level of fitness and healthiness before you get infected.
Looking forward to hearing some good news from Pfizer. We were reading up on that miracle pill that's going to clinical trial right now. Maybe can help zap COVID early on. Let me go back to Davis. I know you had a question for Dr. Fleischman. Go ahead, David.
I do, and I wrote it on my my digital tablet. Let me bring it up if we might. It has to do with what you're doing. What trades and crafts are you preparing our local workforce for, and how quickly can you get them trained? How fast is the turnaround?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. We have a wide variety of programs, and I'll take a look at the first 3 are very short-term programs, 2 weeks. Insulation, industrial insulation, industrial scaffolding, and commercial roofing, a 2-week program. Now, typically you might say, they can't pay that well, but that's not the case at all. So let's take a look at our insulation program. That's a 2-week, 80-hour program, Monday through Friday. Students do not have to have a high school diploma. We teach in Spanish and English. We have 100% employment from every individual who's ever graduated from this program. We have an industry who hires every single one of them at graduation. And to give individuals a sense of what kind of life they can get from a 2-week program, 2 weeks ago, Brand Safeway came down to graduation. We had 10 individuals in the class. As always, they extended an offer to everyone and hired all of them. And they told them right off the bat, your starting salary is $30 an hour. We're going to put you up in Pennsylvania for the next 9 months. You're going to work between 40 and 70 hours a week. We're telling you today at graduation, they looked at these individuals and said, over the next 9 months, your base salary is going to be $91,000 a year. That does not count the $720 a week per DM that goes with it.
Good Lord.
So a 2-week program will put individuals, our average graduate from this program is making $98,760 a week. We had 105 graduates last year. So just because you're looking at a 2-week program doesn't mean it doesn't pay exceptionally well. So next week on Monday, we're starting another 2-week program for industrial insulators. And I met with the staffing department of that company earlier this week. All of those individuals have been slotted into their national staffing model. What the students don't know is they've already been hired. Industry will be coming in 2 weeks to offer them a job. Minimum salary is $18 an hour. Starting wage for a 2-week training program. The roofing program is a 2-week program. All of those individuals will be hired before they even start. So if you want to think long-term, we have 14-week programs for workforce training. That's a long-term program for us. When we were working earlier in Louisiana with LNGs, and of course the Rio Grande Valley, the LNG is going to come. We were putting individuals through a 14-week training program, welding, which is a program we'll have here as well. The starting salary for a non-high school graduate with skills, all they had to do is pass the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G test, $37.50 an hour. So the college is prepared right now. We are offering roofing, scaffolding, insulation. We are offering currently welding, plumbing, electrical, and pipe fitting. And I have to compliment Texas Workforce Commission, because the Texas Workforce Commission during this COVID environment has done an incredible job of getting the financial resources out to the college so that we can fully scholarship many of these individuals who are coming into these programs. I'll tell you right now, anyone who wants to train as a scaffolder, insulator, or roofer, I will fully scholarship them into those programs if they give me a call at 956-295-3724. But we have nearly $500,000 in state funding to scholarship individuals in welding, plumbing, electrical, and pipe fitting, not to mention rigging, not to mention forklift operators. So the shortest training we have, sir, is 1 day, forklift operators. And I have companies that need 15 individuals. I train 15 individuals Monday morning at 8. By 5 o'clock, they're hired.
Let me jump in here and ask one more question. The people who are going to be making nearly $100,000, I didn't catch the company. Do you know what part of Pennsylvania they're going to go to?
They're going to Mankato, Minnesota, or Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh,
right.
That's a far cry from South Texas.
Let me give our producer Joe Salinas, air traffic controller, warning. We're going over, Joe. We're going past 5. We got so much to talk. We're going to try to squeeze in best we can to hear in the final few minutes. You're listening to KURV News Special, RGV Economic Recovery. Dr. Fleischman, my producer Joe Salinas, so for some reason asking me for you to repeat that phone number where you can train people. Are
956. Yeah, that number is 956 295-3724. Give
Right.
us a call if you want training. Daniel is right. Companies are hiring. And if you have the skills, there's such a severe shortage of trained craft workers. If you have the skills, you're going to get an excellent paying job. And we have funds to help get those people the skills they need
Okay.
to take advantage of this economic wave heading our way. And it is here.
Awesome. Back to you, Roxana. I know you had a question for Mike Picayo. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Given current commercial construction, you could say we are experiencing a boom. We are about to see a doubling of commercial construction as a result of cash infusion from relief money, right?
So yes, and well, also reduction of mortgage rates. Also folks wanting to have a larger backyard. That's where we see the conversation going when it comes to residential. When it comes to commercial, it's along the conversation of warehousing space, production space is where we're seeing it. We do have members of our organization that continue to build to suit type of retail space. In previous years, it would be, okay, we're going to do 20,000 square feet, and then we'll break it up into suites. But now it's more at the build to suit level. There is a challenge though. The challenge is the cost associated with building such structures. Steel's going up, lumber's going out,
I've heard
pricing continues to increase. And there's different reasons for it, right? So production here in the US side is not where it needs to be. Tariffs that were implemented on lumber from Canada currently is an issue where the lumber associations are asking the Biden administration to do away with those tariffs. So it's impacted. So there's not as much lumber as there used to be. I'll go back to what Daniel and Dr. Ivan mentioned earlier. We polled our members, and about 95 to 98% of them said that although there was the lift of where the mask was lifted, they were going to require the employees and customers to continue to use those masks. So what does that tell you? It gives you a sense that, you know, we've learned over the last year of what has helped and what works. A bit, you know, we've lost close to 4,600 individuals across the valley, and that number continues to increase, right? And that's touched many families. So we understand what are some of the areas where we need to continue to be cautious. The report that Daniel put out there recently is that in January, there were 500 new jobs in the leisure and hospitality. So as we continue to open up again, we will hopefully see also our unemployment numbers continue to get the better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say thank you to all our panelists. We're coming up on 5 o'clock. This is KURV Edinburgh, and we're going to go ahead and close our economic special, RGV Economic Recovery. Thank you so much. I know we could keep on talking for several hours. This is fascinating stuff. Thank you to Sergio Contreras, who just heard from the Valley Partnership, Dan Uribe, Workforce Solutions, Dr. Ivan Melendez, Hidalgo County Health Authority, and Dr. Joseph Fleischman. I'm going to give about 30 seconds to each one of you for a final closing thought. And I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Ivan Melendez. If you join it, I encourage you to join us for these specials.
We're following him on his rounds. He's making rounds. We're there.
You fight diabetes by getting your 10,000 steps in. I tell you what, Dr. Ivan has gotten the 10,000 steps for all of us this afternoon. I think the only thing missing from Dr. Ivan is actually him helping give birth and picking up the baby and slapping his little butt just to make it cry. Dr. Ivan, final thought, 30 seconds. Go ahead, sir.
I believe that I was destined to work really hard. And so I've heard every single word that your guests have placed. I am almost ready to switch trades to insulation because they're making a lot more money than I am.
You get to go home too.
When I tell you, I'm paying attention to what's going on. And I talk to you from a place of passion. And my passion is this. I've walked into refrigerators with 90 dead people that I recognize that were previously my patients. I've had family members die. I've played videos to people who have passed away as a request from their family. I've been to funerals where you sit in a car because you can't come out. I've been directly a witness of some political influences that, in my opinion, have resulted in the wrong medical decisions and have resulted in deaths. I don't feel comfortable going into details. I've been living this now for a year and a week, and I'm very passionate about this. So your listeners, I want to leave you this message. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. People are a lot smarter than they're given credit for. Our community may be the most diabetic, the most hypertensive, overweight, but we're still smart people. And it makes perfect sense to understand that the denominator to win or lose this war is directly related to prevention of getting the disease. Because once you get the disease, there is no cure. And there's only one way to prevent. Well, actually two. You can move to the South Pole and not be in contact with anyone, or you can get vaccinations. I strongly encourage everyone that can hear me today to take advantage that in this country, we have the opportunity to be vaccinated as opposed to Europe and other areas. So please take my word as someone who's lived it, as a patient, as a policy advisor, and as a clinician. Please get vaccinated.
And for thank you, Dr. Ivan, for always being a phone call away for us. Dan Uribe, Workforce Solutions. Final thought, my brother. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sergio, Roxanne, and Davis for having me today. I just wanted to close it with along the words that Dr. Melendez was sharing with us. I think this past year has really been a challenge, and in all areas of of our lives, the economy, the health, everything. So from the workforce perspective, we do see that the economy is going to continue to improve. There are jobs out there right now. The numbers are still fluctuating, up and down. That is normal. But everything's going to recover. The economy is cyclical, so everything's going to go back to normal, hopefully, by the end of the year. So let's hope for that and keep an eye on all the indicators. I do want to also point out that from what I'm hearing in this panel, everyone is putting their own efforts in their area, right? We have the education portion of it, we have the economy portion of it, the health, all areas of the economy and what we do here in the Valley, they are collaborating and contributing to make everything better. So I think those efforts should not be, just put aside. I think they need to be highlighted because this last year was really a test for all of us here in the region, especially our region, with so many areas still underserved. So I just want to thank you everyone for sharing their wisdom and for you all for having me today.
Thank you, Dan. We always appreciate the data that you share with us, brother. We'll call you next time. My Tocayo, Sergio Contreras, Rio Grande Valley Partnership. Final thought from you, brother. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tocayo. Yes, from our perspective is don't sit on the sidelines. There are jobs out there. Be part of the solution as well. Secure skill, upskill yourself. There's opportunities and engage with your local chamber of commerce so that we can all continue to grow as a community.
Thank you. And don't sit on the sidelines. Great advice with Dr. Joseph Fleischman. My goodness, all these trades, all these jobs, you can get trained for real quick and make lots and lots of money. Dr. Fleischman, final word from you, sir. And give me that phone number one more time for folks to call you.
There's absolutely tremendous opportunity that's here in the Valley and coming, but don't wait for opportunity to come knock on your door. Go out, put yourself in a position. Anyone who's listening, put yourself in a position to be in demand. Go out and get the training, get the knowledge, get the scrap. Don't wait. They're not going to drag you to the opportunity. Sergio, I'd really like to thank you for elevating this conversation to the public. It's so important. Everything we talked about today. Thank you for paying attention to what's happening and having the courage to talk about it.
We hope and pray we continue to hear good news as far as economic opportunity, and especially at our Port of Brownsville. We're hoping for continued growth from Brownsville, Cameron County. That's where the sunrise of the new economy in South Texas will rise. Thank you, Dr. Fleischman, and thanks to all our panelists. I'm Sergio Sanchez, along with Davis Rankin and Roxanne Flores. Stay tuned to 710 KURV. The drive home is next. We'll catch up with the day's news. RGV Economic Recovery. News Talk 710 KURV, made possible today by Bert Ogden and Fiesta Dealerships.
You.
Bye.
We'd like to thank
Y'all
our
did
friends
good.
at Bert Ogden and Fiesta